to the computer. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Hope you all had a great weekend. Happy Monday, Lois. How are you?
Happy Monday. I'm
Happy
great.
Monday. Yeah, so we were talking about our topic for today, and we were talking about procrastination. We've talked about this before, but it's such a big topic and a very important one in terms of our life and what we're doing in our lives and where we are in our lives, that we decided to revisit this topic again today. So procrastination, are we guilty of it? Do we do it? How do we get out of that mindset of, I'm not quite ready, I've got to get everything in place, I've got to have everything perfect before I can do this, and I have to have that in place before I can do that, and being able to just start, do it, and then as you go along, have it evolve into what it's going to be, as opposed to having you have all the pieces in place and then making a move. What do you think, Lois?
Yeah. Although I've been challenged recently with that, being willing to move even though you're not ready. Like, that's a really important piece of being successful in business, is being willing to move even though you're not ready. It's easier to steer a moving car than it is to push one that's not moving.
Well, that's a good analogy.
So that's part of not procrastinating. It's getting moving. It's hard. It's hard to move somewhere where you can't see the future. You know, we're scared of what we can't see. I know I'm in that sort of perfectionist, want to see everything fall in place in a beautiful way. And if it doesn't look just right, then I'm like, maybe I shouldn't put it out there. Why? You know, somebody needs what you have. And if you're not putting it out there, who are you stealing from?
Ooh, when you put it like that, it makes it serious. You know, because you're withholding something from someone that needs to have it. That's not a good thing. And that puts it in perspective, in that you're holding out on somebody that needs what you have and you're not letting them have it. That's not good. That's almost like you know, you're restricting somebody from getting what they need. That makes you not a good person, right? when you do that, you can't have it. It's not ready yet. You cannot have it when they really need it and probably would benefit from what you do have. That's a different perspective and a different approach to looking at it. So yeah, interesting. But you know what I think of when you were talking? I was thinking of, you know, back in the day when people used to think that the world was flat and that if you kept going, you'd fall off the edge of the world. But guess what? They went anyway. They went exploring and they didn't fall off the end of the world, did they? They've ended up in another place. So the thing is, when you start on the journey, not knowing what the end is going to be, it could land you in places that are so beautiful and so far from where you thought you were going to be when you started, that you are now pretty happy about the fact that you did get started, because now you're in a place where you were able to realize something that you didn't quite see before, but then you arrive and it's like, wow, I didn't know I was capable, or I didn't know this was possible, or this place is beautiful, I want to come back. So things evolve once you step off. And you're not going to fall off the end of the world because the world happens to be round. And you might start off in one direction and end up in the West Coast, and you might start off in another direction and end up in the East Coast. But bottom line is that you've started on the journey and then you enjoy the ride as you go along the way. And I think that's the beauty of getting started, not the perfection of it, you know, because we are human and none of us are perfect, even though we try to be. None of us are. So starting off on the journey and then enjoying the sights as you go. Sometimes the scenic route is much better anyway, as the straight beaten path, you know, going off the road a little bit, taking the back road, and seeing where it takes you. Sometimes I've done that. I've just said, I wonder where this road takes me. when I'm in the car. And good for me that I have GPS now so I can get back. But the bottom line is, sometimes I'm curious and I just want to see where something leads to. And I've found different ways to get to the same place. I've found more interesting routes to take to get to a different place. And I've discovered things along the way. So I think that's the beauty of just moving. Don't put it off. You never know what you'll discover on the way, or pick up on the way, or learn on the way, or discover on the way, right? So I just thought about that when you were talking, that people used to think, oh, if we keep going, we're going to fall off the end of the world because it's flat and we're going to just fall off like a cliff. No, not at all.
We all have different.
So not being perfect is okay.
Yeah, it's okay. We all have different personalities, though. When you were talking about that, I think sometimes the journey, that word even, seems so long and so drawn out. And I would just rather go on a trip. Like a little trip sounds so much more doable, and this big journey is so unknown, and so a small trip just I can pack and then come right back, because my introverted self doesn't have to think about all the things that are required to go on this big long thing. And when we don't know something, we don't know something. And those things are scary sometimes. And it's okay to acknowledge that and say, you know what? This scares me. I see that. I know that. And I'm going to step out anyway. I'm going to do this anyway. And it doesn't matter that it scares me. I matter. I'm going to face this, and we're going to have fun
while you're doing it. How about that? That also makes me think of, sometimes we think small sometimes, but we got to think big every once in a while, because when you think big, it's almost like, okay, so we're shooting for this. They say you should shoot for the stars, but if you reach the sky, then at least you've accomplished something, as opposed to not taking off at all, right? So I think of that analogy, that people should reach for the stars, because even if you fall short, you've at least reached the sky, or at least you've reached some part of the universe where you have a different viewpoint. So I think it also reminds me of that. So yeah, think big, take the move, make the move, step off, go anyway, in spite of the fear. And who knows where you'll end up? Who knows?
My husband watches baseball, and so I get to hear a lot of baseball. And I still don't know everything about baseball, but one of the things that strikes me the most about baseball is how often they say how terrible baseball players' stats are. So they'll say, this guy has an amazing win, but last year he was terrible. He had the record in worst hits, like, and they talk about how it is a game of failure. And all of the success that you see is backed by failure. And I think about that sometimes, all of the successes we see in business, in family, in any area of life that we're in, has a record of failure behind it, because that's how we move forward. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. And it's a really cool thing when you think about it. If you let yourself learn, it's not really failing, it's moving forward.
That is an awesome, awesome testimony. That they say that people like Michael Jordan, who's one of the greatest basketball players of all time, that he failed so many times before he made it. Practice, practice, practice until he got so good. But he failed so many times before that. But people don't always hear about the failures. They hear about, his successes. But if we take a look at how he started, he failed many times. I think he was told in school that he would never be, a player because he wasn't good or whatever. But he failed and failed and failed. And finally, when he made it, it was like, wow, you had to fail that many times. Same thing with, who's the guy who made the lights? created the lights. Was it Einstein? I can't remember who. Alexander Graham Bell, but he failed so many times at getting electric lights to work, and he had the vision, but he failed so many times before it finally worked. And so sometimes you've got to fail in order to succeed. And so if you don't start, you won't fail and you won't succeed. So sometimes you have to start, fail, get up, try it again, fail, get up, and try it again. So that's important that you shared that. Absolutely.
So we're going to get moving. We hope you will too.
Yeah.
We're in movement always, and we'll be having some changes here. It's going to be exciting to grow together, and we will join us in the process. Janice, do you have anything to share?
No, except to say, go ahead and check out the podcast. Very interesting guests are coming on. As a matter of fact, next week we have a Dr. Shah who's coming on, who started off wanting to go to medical school or be a teacher and ended up becoming a pharmacist and then getting involved with treating diabetes. So you got to check that out. Very interesting conversation that we had. So yeah, that's it. And so I want you all to have a great Monday. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you all again next week, same time. Unless, of course, you've got something you want to share as well, Lois. Is there something that you need to tell them, or are we good?
I'm good for today.
We're good for today. Have a good one. See you all next time. Bye for now.
Now.